Welcome back to another Habs Locker Room Report where the hockey coach local Frenchies directly from the beautiful country of Thailand. And with tonight from Hawkesbury, the co-host Marco Larabi, and from Toronto and the caveman, the legend, Mr. Enortap, are back in the house.
Sorry, we're a bit late, everyone. Coach and Entertop and I were discussing maybe we would move the show to Utah next season because we know that they're going to need some analysts to cover the new team down there. So I don't know. We haven't
Salt
really
Lake,
decided
baby.
yet.
Here we go.
But we have
Yeah,
one. Runway Kings live in Utah.
well, there you
That's
go.
it.
Yeah.
Question is he willing? Is he willing to change allegiance from LA to
He's always thought he
Utah?
covered the Pee Wee Double A right now for Utah, very young, but he's just the beginning for him. So he's
That's
going to
it.
be very interesting. I'm sure he's going to go at the game when the Kings are going to be at the Utah for different. But if you don't know, it's possible a move from the Arizona Coyotes out to go from there from the Arizona to Utah. So something we have to follow up the next couple of weeks for sure. Will be the end and any team in Arizona. We have a few people knock the door, ladies and gentlemen. Let's welcome back every one of them. Don't forget, guys, click on the like and the friend dans la belle province de Québec, dans la région de Sherbrooke, notre ami Nicolas de Goubi-Bogno. Welcome back in the house. Game number 7 between Sherbrooke and Armada. I don't know. Is it tonight, tomorrow? I don't know what is the game.
I'm not sure, but yeah, I know it's coming up soon. Should be a good
Harry
game.
Lavalley from Arizona. Tucson is in the house. The steak is on the
Larry.
grill right now. The moderator, Luciano Graziano. Welcome back in the house. Thanks so much to be with us tonight, Luciano. A lot of comments from Larry and Luciano together. Sebastian, number 4, knocked the door tonight. Sebastian, thanks to be with our Canadian show.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. We a lot of sibling in this family, and that's what I believe. And then we have a conversation. Everybody is it's all of them conversation. I don't see anybody else. A lot of conversation between all of them. Willie Snyder from Denver, downtown Colorado. The Mac Attack. What a great goal of McKinnon yesterday. Or goal Jonathan Drouin
Wow.
with 3 assists. Now reached the total, the most points during his career in NHL. So Jonathan Drouin, wow, I predict this. I said he's going to get a lot of points this year. But Randy Walkman from Calgary, Alberta is in the house. Calgary came back at deficit by 1 goal at 2-1. Then they have a W last night, 3-2. Again, the Sun was
They're making us nervous, Coach.
I'm sorry.
Calgary's starting to make us nervous. I'm glad they were able to pull that win out there, getting dangerously close.
They pulled it out.
The schedule
They
is
still
very,
have games in the half.
the schedule, Marco, is very light compared to other teams, so was a bit concerned. We talk about this Sunday night, but I think at the end they still play Arizona or the Ducks and the San Jose in the last couple of games, so I think Calgary will be fine on that one. But the most important thing for Calgary is not this year; it's next season. Montreal had that pick, and they cannot be on the bottom 10. If not, we get Florida Panthers. Anyhow, William McClary is in the house tonight. William, thanks to be with us. Can we testing what it look like? There we go. It's coming back like we do. We don't fix everything, but it is what it is.
William,
get
welcome.
that way. Go here. Go here. There we go. I love it. I love it. I love it. Good evening, Mr. Larry, Mr. William. RJ Calabro is on the house. The Blues 4-0 against the Chicago Blackhawks already. Bolduc, 4 goal already. Zach Bolduc, rookie for the Blues. Zach Bolduc. Rich, Mr. 22 is on the house tonight. Welcome back. Long time we don't see you around, Mr. Rich. Hopefully we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and talk about everything else. Mr. Patrick LeWhite is going to go with a couple of things. I don't know what it's about. Win the Master. Win the Master Vancouver to end over to end by 2 goals or more tonight. Arizona not looking good. Last 5-0 last night and the Kraken last night. Lucian Utah makes sense. William Why would the NHL relinquish Salt Lake City as a potential $1 billion expansion site?
Well, I think they're still gonna. So I think, Coach, this is what's happening. What the rumor is, and it's. I don't think the fans in Arizona will be super happy if this is the case. So it looks like this team's going to be sold, to Utah, and it's like over $1 billion transaction there. And then what will happen once they do have the land deal worked out in Arizona, they're then going to bring an expansion team back to Arizona. So imagine you're an Arizona Coyotes fan and you've been patient through this whole rebuild for like ever. And just when you start to have like a good young nucleus of players, they move your team to Utah, and then you get a new expansion team 3 years later, and you have to start all over again. That's
Well,
kind of what
that's
we're hearing.
because they did not want to relinquish that market, right? And it's one of the top 5 markets in the U.S. and it brings in a lot of money. They understand that, so they're determined to make it work one way or another.
Yeah, just a raw deal for the fans, though, right? Like, imagine if you were comparing this to the Quebec Nordiques, right? So you sell the team to the Colorado Avalanche, and then 2 years later, you get an expansion team after, and you see your former team win the cup. It just, I don't understand how that will work, but
maybe back to Scottsdale. Who knows?
No.
Buck and Dream, Michael DeVeno is in the house. Welcome back, Nick.
Welcome
from UK, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Nick, from UK. They have a good hockey league with us called the England Professional League in England. Pierre Martin knocked the door tonight.
Welcome, Pierre.
Try to get everybody else. Willie Snyder, Sebastian, Randy, a lot of Canadians live in Utah.
RJ Calabro.
Michael talk a lot about Rand Smith and what you try to build over there. Luc Fortin is in the house tonight. Welcome back, Luc. Luc Lavortune. Welcome back in the house.
Mon ami.
Super chat.
And we have a super chat number 1 on that Mr. Michael Delivano. Ladies and gentlemen, the super chat number 1 of the night. Let's do it again. Here we go. Chop, chop, chop. Rivers. A new side.
Hey.
Yep. You just cut the head of someone there. Here we go. Hype for Michael David. Thanks so much for the super show. Appreciate a lot, everybody, to get that one over there. And les carottes sont cuites pour les Coyotes. Gary Cournoyer, the Roadrunner, back in the house.
Gary. Beep, beep.
Gary Cournoyer, Evan Cournoyer turned 82 years old, I believe. A great article about him we're sharing with Snap and Marco the last couple of days. And that's what we got tonight. But tonight, on this subject of the night, we got for you guys, the Montreal Canadiens explode with 9 goals against the Flyers last night. We'll talk about the game, but a little bit what the impact of that game. And then we have 2 Jacky. On va dire one in and one is out. For the purpose of the situation on between both of them. And then you follow my at Daily News. Mr. Slafkovsky, got a clip. It was ready on the play game. I have a hat trick last night. You can check that one. My video was out yesterday. Every day we try to bring a new subject of video. Tonight we're going to talk about, guys, the contract of Slafkovsky. We're going to talk about Cole Caulfield. We're going to talk about the NHL Draft 2024. Montreal Canadiens select 5 and 6, 7, depending on what you're going to finish. This is the 3 prediction of the pick next year. We'll talk about what kind of player Montreal could be looking for. And then tonight, we're going to talk about the draft pick of the Winnipeg Jets. They look like they are right now 25th. But who are the players you're thinking the Montreal should select at that level? So I'm going to bring you some name. I have a video clip of DJ Idea, so you can watching that video. I think it would be enjoy to watch what kind of player is. Is good enough to be number 5. And we talk about what's going happening for during summer. for the Montreal Canadiens. For a lot of things about the subject at prospect, and don't forget tomorrow, guys, the game. Lane Hudson play tomorrow against the Denver University. And with Luke Duck, and for the Boston College tomorrow night against the Michigan, Jacob Fuller. So this is a 2 game are going to be on the LDS, if I'm right. I could be wrong for the second game, but I think LDS show the game. I don't know, Marco, if you know it or not.
Yeah, I think it's going to be on RDS2 or RDS, like on the website, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm not sure if it's going to be on TSN, but I have, if anybody is curious, there's a stream that I found where you can catch that too.
Well, we'll be interested what going to happen about this. A lot of conversation in the chat, left and right, about Slafkovsky. So let's move on right away, guys. We're going to rock and roll the show until we all go to the end. Any question, guys? TSN, yes, Randy, I'm sorry about this. I think ESPN College, of course, and other things are going to be a presentation. I don't know if there's a copyright on the YouTube channel, but I don't know.
We'll find out.
We're going to figure out what's going on over there for sure. Anyhow, the headline, we start the show like this way. We're going to bring you everybody that was Denver highest scoring NCAA first division team. And that league, yes, the point, the what they expect is Boston College versus Denver at the end of the final. But you never know. Sometimes surprise could happen at any moment. William Zev Biam is fun to watch. Biam is right now on the top 15 in NHL at this month. Frédéric Ouellet back in the house. Long time, Frédéric. Without you, nice first night is tonight. Coach, let's give Slafkovsky sign contract. We gave Slafkovsky what me can. It could happen, Frédéric. Thanks to be with us. Let's move on, guys, for the headline of the night. Where we are at the beginning of the show, and the people can participate and maybe make some comments. And the first headline of the night came from Marco Larabi, and Marco talked about time for them to perform.
Yeah, Coach. Listen, like anybody who's been kind of following the fan base, following the media, even following some of the interviews that we're seeing from Kent Hughes and even St. Louis, like I just feel overall the tide is turning a little bit. Like the winds of opinion are changing a little bit. I think you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. That St. Louis and the team, is kind of forcing the management team to maybe reevaluate where they are in their plan. For a long time, I've been every week. It seems like I bring up the fact that I think that this summer is going to be very, very important in the overall kind of rebuild here. I think it's they're getting to that stage where it's the end of the asset collection phase and getting all these assets and liquidating and everything else, and for futures. And now it's really about kind of trying to build a roster, the roster construction phase. So we've been talking about how we've seen great progression from individual players. We're seeing the team overall buy into team concepts that Martin St. Louis is putting forward. And, we're starting to see some of these results. If you go back and watch our shows at the beginning of the year, I think all of us on this panel, our biggest wish list was to see these players be able to play a stronger 200-foot game, learn how to win with all the games that they play that are 1-goal games, being able to compete against pretty much every team that they played this year. I think we're seeing some signals, guys, that it's time to kind of move to that phase. And not to say that Kent Hughes, I don't want to say that his job has been easy so far, right? He's done a great job. I think we're, for the most part, other than maybe the Justin Barron Lehkonen move, it's hard to criticize any of the moves that he's made. Like it's been pretty good in terms of him being able to move out assets and collect new assets. But as the team is performing and is giving them reason to commit, maybe readjust and accelerate, now it's showtime for Hughes and for Gordon. For the first time, I think you're going to start to see the pressure starting to to mount a little bit on Kent Hughes to kind of accelerate things. Yesterday, there was a great interview with Frank Saravelli. And, again, it's not just that interview, but overall, you're just hearing more analysts across the NHL, even English speaking, Toronto media and everything, starting to kind of, wonder, okay, when is this going to come to an end here? And when are they going to start kind of making moves here? So the overall narrative, the overall kind of like impression around the Montreal Canadiens is this summer is going to be very critical. And, again, it's not that Kent Hughes' job has been easy so far, right? But some of the moves, like, trading Tyler Toffoli and Sherratt, they were good moves, right? But these were expiring contracts and they were relatively easy moves to make. But if he really wants to, and he, to use his own words, Ken Hughes yesterday in that interview mentioned that they need to take a next step. Next year they need to take a step is his exact wording, right? So in order to do that, there's only certain ways you can do that. You either need to make a trade, you need to sign a UFA, and maybe you need to move out one or two of these bad contracts, namely Anderson. And even though Gallagher's been playing better, since he's been playing with Newhook, those are the two contracts that everybody kind of looks at and understands that is kind of an issue for Montreal moving forward. So the team is performing, the team is evolving. Now it's going to be the pressure, and all eyes this summer at the draft are going to be on Kent Hughes. So curious to hear you guys. Like, do you guys feel the change, in the fan base? Like, even on this panel, Coach, like, you were a lot bullish on next year, but recently I've been noticing, your projections for next year, you're starting to be a little bit different projection, so even this panel, and a lot of other voices across the hockey world, are you guys kind of hearing that and feeling that as well? Entertap, what do you think?
It's without a doubt, it's going to be a very explosive summer, I believe, and a lot of it will hinge also on the draft, Marco. I think if we should be fortunate enough to get, somebody like a Lindstrom, if it falls to us, or I doubt they'll go the way of Demidov for obvious reasons that we've discussed numerous times. But if they can get that, either top 3 or top 6 forward that can complement and start, they've built on that first line this year. They'll obviously pursue a little bit more aggressively if they do get a very good draft pick, because I feel, as Hughes said, now's the time. Why not? They've established a good core. There's still a lot of work to do. And as you mentioned, I think Hughes has done the easier part of his maneuverability so far. The hard part comes now, and his legacy will depend on the kind of moves that he makes over the next year and possibly two, to be sure. But I feel the excitement. I think they won't hesitate if they have to pull off something. The key is they have those assets, right? We always talk about it. They have the draft picks. They have some prospects that people would be very interested in. And I'll warn everybody, it's not going to be easy, and it's going to hurt, because you're going to hear probably some names that are being traded, which when you sit back after and they're going to have to make certain evaluations, right? I mean, their biggest area of concentration and asset collection has been on defense. So now they have to look at the defense they have, and they have to sort of do a little bit of projection in the forward, looking forward, saying, maybe this is a defenseman or two that we can do without in the future in order to get that key element up front that we've been so long seeking. So some of these moves are going to probably hurt, but I think I trust in their judgment. As Hughes mentioned in that interview you were talking about with Saravelli, he's got a wide knowledge of all the players in the league. The fact that he's been a coach, he's been an agent, he's been, at all different levels. He's grown up with these kids, and he knows exactly who's capable of what. and where to get a bargain when it's needed. So it's exciting for sure. What do you think, Coach?
But some I agree with Marco, and some I disagree with Marco. Um,
But you
I
agree
don't
with
know
me.
which GM it will try to trade Hoffman and Petrie and to move out of them with a Montreal Canadiens with a couple of years under contract and to get what they got in return. I think it's not easy, and the way he did it, it would take a lot of negotiation, everything like that. It's not like I just right. So he had to make those kind of trade like this. It's not easy to do it, in my opinion, for Ken
He
Hughes.
did one. So let me answer on that, right? So that's probably the most difficult trade that he made, and I think it needed to be done because Hoffman just had we imagine, like, well, first of all, he was stressing us out on this panel. Like, it was just, I couldn't imagine if a Hoffman was with the Habs all season this year. I don't know if I could handle that. But
I like
overall, they needed to make that move, right? But again, they got rid of his contract, but they got Petrie, right? And they're still going to have a percentage of his contract on the books next year as well, right? So it wasn't free doing that. Like, it's not like and the assets that we got back, Pearson, ultimately is what we got back when you moved to Smith and all that. Like, when you kind of come out of it, basically we got Pearson and we got who was the defenseman that we got from Dallas or from it's from
what
Dallas.
that went directly to the one that went directly to Laval.
Yeah, and he got picked up on waivers. I can't even, like, seems like ages ago, but the Swedish guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what we got, right? So we got a defenseman that played a couple games in the preseason, maybe a couple games in the regular season, got picked up on waivers, and then we also have Petrie's contract. I think we got a second round pick, right? That's kind of what we got out of it. Yeah, so it's not a bad deal, but
the other thing is sometimes you can't measure it by the magnitude of the players that are involved in the trade. Sometimes creating cap space is where the victory is won. And yeah, you might lose out in other ways, but in the end, it's all about creating that cap space so that when they're ready, they can make the moves that they need to make. And that's not easy because, I mean, teams aren't stupid. They're not always going to take your garbage or your high-end contracts for nothing.
Yeah. Anyways, Coach, go on with your theory, but yes, that was probably the most difficult trade that he had to execute. But again, we still have baggage from that trade too, right? It wasn't like total robbery. I think that trade, it was a good trade, but
the next thing I would say to you is the fact, like, right away at the beginning, he traded Romanov. So when you trade Romanov, he was not like he showed to me whatever the people think about Montreal, the fans, right? I would go with a good center, young prospect like Kirby Duck on that one. So I like his fearless to get that direction with Montreal Canadiens. So this is everyone. The rest, it is what it is. Now, time for them to perform. I still not believe it's a time yet to perform. It depends what is for you, what perform for Montreal Canadiens. To move, for me, it's about, okay, how we can be in 2024-2025 season, close at 35 game and play some game at this moment of the season. They are not many less, where it's try to get a spot. Think about this. If Montreal have 5-6 more W, they are on the same boat like the Flyers. That's 6% all the game winning more. And imagine if we are that location at this moment, how the game will be so much difference on the fans, on the players, on the management, and we still believe we can maybe make the playoff. Whatever, maybe we are not there yet. So for me, this is what I'm trying to looking for Ken Hughes. What kind of addition he can do to make that team there? Why not bigger? Because they are still have the players like at the end of the contract for one more year. The Dvorak, the David Savard is the two of them for the upcoming season. And then you have the Jake Evans, and the rest are HP. But the biggest is Savard and Christian Dvorak and Joel Armia. It's a three player right now for the Montreal Canadiens. For Anderson and Gallagher, I still believe they are not ready yet to make any move to remove them out of the lineup. I still believe they will go slowly, put something bigger a little bit to get that time the team I'm looking for. 80 point, 85 point where they can handle all the way to the, because a normal season, guys, already a team is a 93 point and the playoff it will be harder. This year is really different because nobody tried to get the 93 point. It's a 93 point usually the cut of the playoff. Maybe this year is going to be maybe 91. That's rare. So Montreal Canadiens, that's what I'm looking for Ken Hughes to grade that. I don't see a big splash UFA or a big trade. Now, can he add a prospect around the league? You know, possible, but I don't see like a big time yet for the Ken Hughes. I see more in 2025 for the Montreal Canadiens for the gym management.
I see that more with. I would agree with the UFA part of that aspect. Maybe not so much this year, but I still think he'll make some noise in terms of a trade. I mean, when you look at a couple things, Coach. First of all, those contracts you talked about, Dvorak, Savard, those are not going to be hard contracts for them to move. I think that'll be a fairly easy exit if he wants to do it right away. If he has to wait a little bit later till trade deadline time, then so be it. He'll do that and try to get as much as he can. The harder ones, obviously, are the ones like Anderson and Gallagher, because of the length and the quantity of money that's involved. But I mean, you throw into the equation, okay, what if, Marco had this headline before. What if Doc was here all year long? How many points would that have translated to this year? Another 5 to 6 points, 8 to 10 points. That would put them, as you said, Coach, in the same conversation as some of the teams that were fighting for that playoff spot. And on top of that, you throw in the fact that if they get lucky enough to get a good draft pick, that will automatically make it to the NHL, won't go down, kind of like Slafkovsky, and he produces, and they pick up a good winger through the trade. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to make the playoffs because I do believe it's still early, but they can make some noise and they could become much more relevant next year than they are right now.
I think the point that I was trying to make with this one, guys, is when you really kind of like read the fan base and you listen carefully to what Ken Hughes is saying, in particular that piece, you can see that he understands that he needs to kind of push the team forward here. Like he mentioned yesterday that he's a little concerned about allowing a culture of losing to get really installed and embedded in his room, right? There's some reports that you saw some reporters that were commenting on, I think it was Eric Engels was talking about Martin St. Louis is getting sick of losing. If you look at him in the press conferences, getting a little bit more frustrated. And, ultimately what this is about, guys, is, at the trade deadline, when a GM, we hear this all the time, right? Well, the GM decided to go make a move to reward his team for having a good year and give them an even better chance, right? So I think that same concept of a GM making a move to reward his team at the deadline, the same thing can apply during the summer, right? Kent Hughes, first of all, he wants to reward the young team that he has for making steps this year into buying into St. Louis system, playing a better overall team game, showing that they're closer to being ready to compete. So he'll do that for that reason. He wants to do it. And then he doesn't want losing to become part of embedded in the culture. So for those reasons, I feel strongly that, again, if there's no move to be made, like you need two people to tango, right? So nothing is guaranteed. But I think that like I said, it's really, to me, there's definitely more pressure on them to do that. Not necessarily just external pressure, but they're putting pressure on themselves because they're seeing that the team is ready and needs to be rewarded if they want to continue developing. And if you look at the last 3 years since Montreal finished last overall and drafted first overall, well, you're starting to incrementally they're getting more points every year. So the expectation is that you have to do that again next year. And yes, you're right, Entertap adding Doc, is going to help for sure. But like we've discussed here, if you add Doc, you add another top 6 player. I'm not sure somebody that we're drafting it with our 5th or 6th round pick this year is going to be an impact NHL player, depending who you draft, obviously. But
yeah, by that I meant if they should get even fortunate and get a spot or two higher on the draft. On the
maybe
prospect. Yeah.
It was just interesting, guys. Like, I definitely feel that the tide turning a little bit here. Curious to see what people in the chat think. Like, what do you like if you compare kind of how you evaluated Montreal 6 months ago? Is it different now than it was 6 months ago in terms of how ready that you think they are to be closer to competing next year? We'd love to hear kind of your thoughts in the chat as we move forward with the next topic here.
You know what the difference though will be, Marco? I think the expectations next year are going to be higher, and if it's anywhere near what it is this year in terms of their productivity, I don't know if there's that same leeway to say, well, we're in a rebuilding stage. I think people will want to see more of an effort, not an effort being put in, because I think that's not fair to say. They've been doing that on a nightly basis, but they want to see the production finally work out on their side of the ledger.
Yeah, agree.
A lot of new people pop up before we move on. We have Sparta is in the house. The Canadian guy is in the house. Robin Allen is in the house. Frederick Ouellet is in the house. Zeph, David Robinson is in the house. I love it. Don't forget, guys, click on the like. That'd be awesome. And that would be great for that. Next, move on with the Enartap. Mr. Enartap have this one.
The fine art of coaching. And a lot of this, first of all, I was thinking of you, Coach, more than anything, because I know you'll be able to throw in a lot of good advice here. And we've seen this year that just like every other year, there's always a coaching carousel. The other day when I heard that 25% of the coaches had been fired this year, I mean, it was surprising, but it wasn't surprising in a way. I think it's such a balancing act in terms of what makes a fine coach and a good coach, a great coach, an elite coach. Do you look at and even if you ask different people, whether it's in the chat or even professionals in hockey, players, you'll have different versions of what they consider to be a good coach, but at the bottom of everything is, and some of these are common sense that I'm going to say, obviously, but having also coached for many years, I know what a delicate balancing act it is. But at the base of it all is really the key ingredients of honesty and communication between the coach and the players. Something that we're seeing in Montreal from everything I gather. Now that doesn't necessarily mean creating false pretenses, for positive interactions. That's not what I'm trying to get at here. It just means that the players are aware of what your focus is as a coach. The coach is extremely aware of what he has in terms of talent in front of him, and is able to adhere to their situations. If you look at the players, like no two players are ever exactly alike. They all come with their own baggage, whether it's from hockey or if it's from personal life that comes into the mix. And a coach has to know how to balance that, and has to know, this one, if I think I kick him in the butt, he's going to produce. This one here, I might have to caress a little bit. This one here, I might have to sit. This one here, I might have to coach a little bit more and be more of a teacher than anything else. And at the stem of it all are I think probably 5 or 6 key characteristics that come out in terms of good coaching. I'll name them. Number one is positivity. And I think that that's something that we've seen in Montreal and a few other cities. Like you look at Arizona as well with Tournier. They've all been positive about where they're headed, and the approach that they've taken. Again, realizing that you have to maintain and build a positive environment of which the players are not only happy about coming to and playing and participating in, but want to produce for that coach because of that. They see that communication that I spoke of earlier. Number two, I would say, again, there has to be trust in the entire process. The one thing you don't want to see is sort of cliques that develop within the team. Some that believe that the direction that they're taking is not correct. Others that believe that, they have to continue in that fashion. There has to be a system in place. There has to be open communication and trust between the coach and the players themselves. Number three, I would say role modeling. Very important here, because I don't think any player wants to sort of hear something that the coach is not willing to back up with action. And I think that that's critical, not only in coaching, but in life in general, if you have somebody that's in a leadership position. The next one I would say is probably focus. Being consistent and being true to what you said day one was going to be your goal, maintaining that and continuing with it throughout the year. That's why we're seeing a lot of times, like it's easy for us to sit back and say, well, you know what? Why did we win that game 3-2? Why did we overplay our top players? Well, it wasn't because we needed the 2 points, because those 2 points really are not going to take us anywhere except maybe further from a better draft pick. But I think what it was done for was the fact that you have to always maintain the same focus, and that focus is winning and establishing that kind of environment. Number five, I would say it's knowledge. This is something you can't fake. You have to come into the game. You have to know your sport. You have to know exactly what systems work. You have to know how to what players play best under what set of circumstances, and that makes a great coach. And number six would probably be being assertive, and by that, I think it's something that is really not negotiable. The problem sometimes is people perceive it as, kicking around a can or, yelling at referees as being assertive. That's not the case. The case is making everybody accountable for what they're supposed to be doing. If they have a large role, then that's what they have to be accountable for. If they have a small role, which is just, let's say, back checking, or it's blocking shots, or it's creating a disturbance, a bit of energy to the lineup, then that's where the focus has to be. That's where you have to be assertive and hold each player accountable to that. So I just wanted to bring that out a little bit, because we saw yesterday Tortorella and what happened there. And I some people hate Tortorella, some people love Tortorella. One thing you can say about Tortorella, though, is he's blatant about what he wants to achieve. He's quite open and honest, and he felt he got the most out of he could out of his players to get him to this stage. And so he's demonstrating sometimes by showing frustration. He's demonstrating that, you have the talent, you have it within you to get to this point. Now, did they play over their head, Philadelphia? Perhaps. But in the end, you still have to have the talent to get to that stage. And that's what he's trying to ameliorate with each player on a daily basis. So it's interesting. I don't think, what was the old saying? Coaches are hired to be fired, and they know that it's that carousel all the time. What will make a coach that has the longevity of, let's say, a Cooper, who's been around, I think, he's got to be his 11th or 12th year now, I think, with Tampa Bay. thereabouts. These are, I think, some of the factors that come into it. But again, just to end it off, I think at the base of it all is that open communication and that honesty that exists between the player and the coaches. Curious what you guys think.
Yeah, so I might have missed it, but I think for me, the quality that would be number one on my list for a coach is the ability to sell belief, right? So you have to be a good salesman, right? Like you have to be able to, and Saint Louis was actually just mentioning this in his press conference yesterday, that probably the most important thing about his development and his ability to be successful as a coach is to get all the guys to believe in how they want to play, right? And everything follows that, right? So you have to be able to, to be a good salesman, and that means that you have to be able to communicate well, obviously, like in a very clear way, and be able to, and in a way, there's a little bit of luck in that too, right? Because it's hard to sell something if the outcome isn't good, right? Like let's Cole Caulfield is a perfect example. Okay. If he reads his social media this year, he's probably hearing what we hear here in the chat almost every night, right? Well, why isn't he scoring as many goals? He's paid to score goals, like, and hearing all that, right? So if you're St. Louis and you're trying to teach Cole Caulfield that he wants him to be a good hockey player and not necessarily just a goal scorer, you have to be able to sell that hard to someone like Cole Caulfield, who his whole life, he's had this identity as being a goal scorer. And then you have a huge section of the fan base that's kind of like in your face, asking questions as to why you're not doing the one trick pony thing that you're supposed to do. So as a coach, that's very difficult to do, right? Like to ask a player to believe in what he's asking you to do and to work on the things, even though you might not be seeing immediate results that you would want to see, right? So to me, that's the biggest quality. Everything that goes after that is only anything that a coach does is only possible if his team believes. So I think that's probably the number one quality. And based on what we saw last night, gentlemen, I'd say an underrated quality for a coach is the lower body strength ability to kick a garbage can clear across the room without spraining a muscle, right? So that's also a good characteristic. Coach, what do you think? What's your number one quality that you would look for if you're hiring a coach, and if you want to be a coach in the NHL that's going to have a long shelf life? I think is the most.
And you've
important
been in
thing.
that position more than anybody else, so I'm sure you've had this challenge in your mind over the different years.
Yeah, I would say to you the first thing is about communication. When I say communication, it's about how he communicate with his players, and also how he's going to become a motivator with teaching around the team. Before we talk about the system, right? So when you go in an interview, usually they would ask a question. Different different thing could happen inside the locker room. What you do with the players is on the bad attitude example is a red flag in your team. How you do to communicate to motivate your team. What you do when you last 4 or 5 games. What kind of reaction you're going to do, what kind of the conversation you're going to have before the game, what is the pep talk between the period, what you do after you losing game, what kind of practice you're going to do during the week for your team. Those questions, it's happening, guys. If you go to NCA division coaching as an assistant coach or a coach example, they would ask those requirements before you talk about one system. It's all about now it's your behaviors behind the bench. What kind of reaction you're going to do if you have a bad call? What kind of reaction you're going to do if there's something happening on the off ice example? Bad behavior for the players that miss the curfew example. What would be your rules for the team? How the team is going to buy in your program? how the team, the players going to be sure they're going to follow your rules. What kind of player you looking for? Is it, and then after that you go on the system. What will be your system to play on defensive, everything like that? So when you go through an interview, guys, it's not like you bring your resume, put this on the table, and you're thinking they're going to read this. They're going to go deep. And of course, any other interview in the world, but as a coach, it's always communication. More important now, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Today, it's about communication. Tortorella right now, this is almost the end of those kind of coach in NHL. It's going to be more about now the behavior of the coach behind around the team to understand the millennium, because the player are coming out with another kind of mindset like he was 25 ago, 20 years ago. The game is changing on the social media, and now they have to deal with those implications around. So it's a lot of things to thinking about this. But my three requirements for the coach for me first is communication. After that, it's about motivation. About that is a teacher, and finally, how he going to play by the system around that part over there. So this is all about. And when I'm talking about communication, it's come with a lot of things about the mindset, uh, how you react, and about different things happening during the season. And I think that would be my best requirement, or if I want to look in for the coach.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think Kent Hughes, that interview that we keep referring to, this I think says it all, right? I'll paraphrase what he said, but something to the effect that Martin Saint Louis is the organization's best person in the whole organization to communicate what they want to do as a hockey club internally and externally. And Frank Saravelli himself in that interview mentioned like how entertaining it must be to be around the Montreal Canadiens, because even he likes listening to Martin Saint Louis press conferences, right? Like, I think he's starting to get quite renowned around the league for having what we know all his great expressions, his analogies, and all that stuff, right? But Saint Louis is Montreal's most important leader in that sense, right? Like, he's the undisputed leader of the locker room. He has the ability to sell, what's the Habs want to do with the players, but also with the fans. So it's a really, more than anything, coach, like, you can I think you can say with a lot of certainty that Dominic Ducharme, that's probably one area that was very painful to watch, was his press conferences and his ability to communicate with the fans. It's you'd like to think that it's kind of like not the central part of the job, like coaching the players and setting the systems and doing the
But it
actual
is.
work, but it's an essential part of it. And
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
a huge difference between Dominic Ducharme, even somebody like Michel Therrien, even though he's more media savvy than Dominic Ducharme. You can't compare Michel Therrien or Claude Julien to somebody like Martin Saint Louis. Like, the guy's like Yoda, right? Like, he's just so inspiring. He's like a little monk that gives us all these. He
But
makes hockey like almost spiritual.
you know what, Marco, more than anything, and coach, I think what makes Martin St. Louis so successful, and it was really, if you recall, the very first day he stepped into the dressing room, he looked at every player, and the first message he gave is, I've been in your situation, I've been in your situation, I've been in your situation. Those that were successful, those that were not successful, those that had difficulties in their lives, and those were true words that were spoken that resonated, I think, with the players. And that's where the honesty comes in, right? Like, if you look at, let's say, if you made a checklist of those things that we've named individually here for every coach, it would be interesting to see how many of those boxes we check off for Martin St. Louis versus, some other ones that have been around a lot longer. Because the biggest complaint with St. Louis was, well, what's he ever coached before? Besides his own son, and at a smaller, lower level. But I think the knowledge is there. It's just he hasn't been put in a situation yet where he's had to demonstrate it because we're not near a playoff position yet.
Great point for all of you guys about that one of them. It's funny because we do at lines, we don't talk each other, we don't see what happening, and I always do mine before both of you because I don't want to share my mind if you have the same subject. But so that, and for the rest of the team, business of convincing a team by Martin Saint-Louis. So I didn't want to change it, but I try so we keep it anyway. And Randy said exactly what is about convincing. A coach is like a salesman car, right? You try to convince your player to buy in, and sometimes you want them to have to play the right way, but it's not specifically always the same way. And they need to talk about this because Martin, we said all the time, right? The game talk to you. The way we played today, the last couple of games, it's not going to maybe happening game number 54 next season, and maybe not happening after in March next year. Why? Because everything changing. And for Martin Saint Louis is to be sure he can improve himself to get the best tool for the players to become better and for the team become better. And when you talk about this, is to improve himself. Then after that, give the best clip for the players to understand the game. And then and then for him is to be sure that the players buy in. When you offer and you give them the best tools for the team, and he can understand the reason they do that and the reason behind that for the why, all right? Because the player don't want to know. Every time we do a drill, they have four kinds of different players are going to see the drill. Sometimes they just go by automatic. They just do it. They don't really care. They want to score goal. They just want to do it. And then after that, other players, they want to know the why. And some the why, some here they can understand by their ear, some can see it by their eyes, and some players that don't get it right away. So you have to talk about this. It's very not easy when you move on the eyes, you put a drill. At that level, understand NHL. But still, the player want to understand a lot the why behind everything. So they need to convincing the team. When they convince those team, those players, usually that team get better as a unit because they are really all in. They only buy in. I always said they have to buy what you sell to them at the beginning of the year. Every year I was coming with my boss and I will show them what happened inside the boss. Every row have a reason behind. And this is game number 1. And we have to go all the way to the game number 24 at the end of the year. And that bus go to the national. And me, I'm going to drive that bus to the national. But I'm not guaranteeing each one of you is going to follow me. I maybe go there with 8 players. I don't know. But this always sell my think with positive passion, progression, every time. And I think this is the way. It's a coach to convincing a team to buy in, to go all in, and you're going to get the result at the end of the day. And this guy is going to, it's a daily, not a yearly. It's a daily about convincing a team. Because one player is going to go down, one player is going to get there. I'm telling you right now, when Joel Armia left the Montreal Canadiens for Laval, Martin Saint Louis, he bring him on his office and they talk about everything. And sometimes everything is not about hockey. It's about life. I will give you an example.
Mhm.
Armia is play hockey for 12 years, 13 years. And after that, when you go to rest you rest 40 years. So Saint Louis had that kind of experience, can explain to the players, this play hockey is one thing, but life is bigger. And sometimes you have to readjust yourself and to understand the bigger picture around the hockey career. And it's not something is always guaranteed in your pocket to have a job every day. You have to survive in the jungle. And those kinds of conversation, guys, it's not easy around the team, and it take time. If you take a job, a coach is only behind the bench and cross your arm and then put your arm on the side and looking left and right, it's this. It's a job of 12, 14, 16 hours. The coach show up at 6 o'clock in the morning One of the first one show up and he leave afternoon. One of the last one, and this is it, 60 hours per week. So in the first slate, they pay the price. They are the first one to pay the price when the team does not do well. So I just want to share in this very quickly. My line don't want to go deeper about this, but I just want to tell you a little bit more what's going on.
Coach, can I throw one question at you? When does a coach know when to cut the line or cut the cord with a particular player? When they've tried everything? Like, I'm thinking specifically, I'll be honest, I'm thinking about Anderson. And I think St. Louis has tried many different things, redefining his role. So where does that fine line come in where you say, I think we have to part ways here?
Honestly, as a coach, you never cut it. The management's going to cut it. But as a coach,
Right.
you cannot cut it. You just have
That's a
to
good point.
consider to encourage the players and to try to put him in there. Because remember, guys, I show up the morning, you have 23 players. Whatever who they are, I want to be sure they improve the team and I can improve them every single day. And this happening at some point, they maybe knock my door. Can you say, hey, I think right now we need to do something with Josh Anderson. But it's not about saying who is going to cut Josh Anderson. He's going to find the management as a coach. Because why? Contrast to John Tortorella, you want to be sure they're all pushing in the right direction. If you're only 22 or the 23 push, it's not good enough. I need to be sure we're on the right because the bad apple in the back or the red apple is going to affect the rest of the team. Your negative is going to attack and to affect the rest of the team. So what you try to do is always encourage, to enthusiasm, with positive all the time. Explain to the biggest problem in any players in NHL as that situation, Josh Anderson, is to accept a specific role changing like he did for the next year. Whereas maybe his time is cutting now. He's become maybe a third line, become a fourth line. The Joel Armia, he accept the role now. Brendan Gallagher is starting to get there. It's not easy. And Josh Anderson does not get it yet. And he's get frustration. When you put it, your behavior of Josh Anderson right now, it's all about him. The karma around him is frustration. That's what's happening right now. And a brain negativity. He has to work on his mindset. But cutting him, I don't think so Martin is going to do it. Look the words. I think Marco, he can consider with that. He would said the last couple of days, couple of weeks, he would said, we believe this is only a one-off season. He's going to bounce back next year. And at the beginning of the year, what he said, Josh Anderson is back.
Yeah, and like specifically one thing that I think of when St. Louis mentioned Anderson, like I think the press asked him directly this question earlier in the season, and St. Louis' response was, "I only give up on a player when he gives up on themselves." Right? I think that was kind of his response that he gave. But there's two things I want to mention here, guys. Very interesting comment from Luc Lafortune here that I want to comment on. So Luc says it's easier to coach a team when wins and losses are not important. I very much disagree with that. And even Ken Hughes, the reason that's out to me is that he mentioned that in his interview yesterday too. It's actually probably even more challenging to coach a team when wins and losses don't matter, because you're needing to find extra ways to keep them focused and motivated, right? Being on a winning team, essentially by default, the players are going to be motivated because they're chasing something of value. They're part of a struggle and a goal to make the playoffs, right? So I think it's even harder to, especially in when you're trying to kind of do two things at once. You're trying to develop and progress a bunch of people, different people that have different needs, different levels of ability to learn, different kind of obstacles standing in their way. You're trying to move everybody in the same direction while trying to keep everybody motivated when the motivation is not super clear, right? So I think that's not as simple as it seems that it would be. So that I think is important to mention. But
I would agree with that, Marco. I think it's a lot easier when you have a talented team to coach in under those circumstances. And as we've seen with many other top coaches that when they move from one team to the next and they don't have the same type of talent, we see different results.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
No, it's
it's
okay.
fine.
Go ahead, Coach. Yeah, like I think it is challenging. Like again, like you when you have a specific goal, like to win as many games in order to make the playoffs, and you're right in the race, it's a lot easier to keep everybody focused on that simple of a goal, right? But when you're starting to, and that's why you see coaches use techniques like, okay, we're going to try to win coming up with best of 7, kind of like tranches of games during the season so that you can have short-term objectives for the team and things like that, right? So I think that's really important to do. But coach, I think it's going to be important here. Like Saint Louis, again, there's people saying that they're not still sure about him or whatever. Like, of course, he still has things to learn, and I think if there's anybody in the whole organization that I'm not worried about, somebody who is going to continue to develop, it's Martin Saint Louis, right? Because you're always looking. For me, the people that succeed the most in life are people that are inherently curious. They're insatiable. They just want to learn. They just want to continue to improve. And you can see Martin Saint Louis, one of his biggest qualities is that he's curious. He wants to learn more. He wants to try new things. Last
And
thing on
has walked
coaching.
in those shoes.
Yeah,
And has walked in those shoes as well. Yeah,
for sure. Last thing on coaching, guys, and Intertop, I'm sure, as in your profession and certainly in my profession, one thing for me that I always try to remember that I use in my personal life is when you're either managing or leading a group of people. I always use hockey as a good example, right? At any given time in a hockey team, there's probably 1/3 of the team that 100% is on board with what you're doing and they're in love with you, right? Then there's the other third of the team that isn't happy with you, and then there's the middle part that are kind of like sheep, you know. So sometimes when you're a leader in a team like that, it's important to try and really empower the people that believe in you and that believe in what you're doing, so that they can positively influence the sheep or the people that are in the middle, so that the 1/3 of the people that are negative about what you're doing are not going to bring the middle group with them, right? So there's always those 3 groups. There's people that love you, people that are just going to follow either way, and then the people that don't like what you're doing. So if you spend a lot of energy focused on the people that don't like what you're doing, that's not going to work. You need to focus on the people that are bought in, that are ambassadors for what you're trying to do, and they're going to help you influence the other people in the group to kind of bring them along. So that, to me, that's a quality of a good leader as well.
It's like the undecided in an election, right? You have to try to sway those people over to your side.
Exactly.
It's funny because people like Luc, we said, Martins, we have no challenge right now. It's nothing big for them. I would say to you guys, it's not that way. This is a big challenge. You have to be sure the players show up with enthusiasm. You want to be sure the players continue to progress when they got eliminated at the playoff. You want to be sure the team continues to on the evaluation for each players. I'm telling you right now, look, Justin Byron, do you think right now he take the last game, the next game, like easy for him? Do you think Jordan Harris right now is not looking to play those games like just not big deal? Do you think Jordan Strubble is not looking for maybe I have to keep a job next year? I need to perform every single night. Do you think any other players right now are not looking to get their
Borak.
job? So it's really important but how do you motivate them until to the end? This is the biggest challenge for Martin Saint Louis. How they can continue to progress. The season not stop at 70, it stopped at 82.
No.
So he have to continue to daily to bring new ideas, to make the practice fun, to challenge the players on fun ways, and to keep continuous until to the end. Of course, the motivation is lower, but how we can keep that bar higher. This is what the challenge are for Martin Saint Louis. And you prepare the rest to finish strong your year. Try to finish strong. Don't give up. Finish strong and then prepare those gap of the game are less meaningful for the team to prepare the upcoming year. That's what is the biggest challenge for Martin Saint Louis. In my opinion, that's why I feel like if you think you not have any pressure on Martin Saint Louis every single day, just go there, put you on the skate with over Martin Saint Louis for 3 days, face to the negativity of the fans, face to the pressure for the fans, face to the pressure of the reporter. All the questions you have to go every day. You have to prepare the drill. You have to run 23 players in front of you. It's 14, 15 hours. If this is not just a easy job, this is challenge you face on the day to winning your day every single day.
But to Luke's
Yeah.
point, if there's anybody's job that's going to get harder, it was my first headline, right? So far, you can say that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon haven't had a lot of pressure, right? They do their part at the golf tournament. We're not going to do the P word this year, and then they go back and obviously they work hard. I'm not saying they don't work hard, but if there's anybody where the pressure is going to change with like my headline this summer, it's the management team, because people like Luc and like I said, the whole kind of sentiment around the fan base and the media is changing a little bit. So I don't think St. Louis already feels daily pressure because he has to keep people motivated, and everything you said is bang on, coach. But the ones that are going to see the pressure dialed up this summer, Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, they're going to start feeling more pressure.
Yeah, definitely. I think the pressure is going to change with time also, Marco. On every phase you move, you change you change you change
Your
the pressure is
goalposts.
changing because you don't have the expectation is not the same. Year number one, year number three, year number five. The next challenge for Martin Saint Louis is when the team is going to get better to keep that team on that progression all the way to the end to make the playoff. So that's what we got, guys. We have a lot of people in the chat. Thanks so much. Don't forget to click on the likes. Between that, we have a question for Willie. Ask you about what are your thoughts on Nathan McKinnon?
What can you say? I mean,
He's like an 8.
he definitely merits that award this year if he's able to grasp it. I mean, I just look at lately. I think Kucherov has really responded, and a lot of times points will dictate it, especially if he's the one that hits the 100 assists on top of winning the scoring championship. He's going to get that Hart Trophy. But I mean, McKinnon every year is elevating his game, and we're seeing a absolute beast on skates. He's an elite hockey player.
Yeah, like I think those discussions that you have, like who do you pick if you're building a franchise and you have to build it around one guy. I think a pretty popular answer would be McKinnon over McDavid. That, to be honest, that's probably the direction I would go, to be honest, because at this stage, like, first of all, he's a proven winner. McDavid hasn't won anything yet. I know it's a team sport, and I get that, but McKinnon to me is, he has this name, maybe not the same vision, maybe as McDavid has, like, but in terms of speed, guys, like, he may not be as fast as McDavid, but he's, I think, more explosive than McDavid. He's more powerful than McDavid. I think he's more intimidating than McDavid. Like, I know McDavid, if you're a defenseman and you're skating backwards and defending the rush, it's intimidating, right? You don't want to be on a highlight. But with McDavid, not only is it intimidating in the sense where you might end up on the highlight of the night, but you might also end up on your ass, which is kind of a different type of intimidation, right? He's a bull. Like, if I had to characterize him, he is a bull out there, and very impressive to watch. To me, for my money, probably the top hockey player on the planet over the last 2 years, to be honest, or even 3 years. For me, I'm choosing him as my centerpiece. If I'm building a franchise, he's my guy, 100%.
And our top, who won the Norris?
I mean, I think you have about 2 or 3 really solid names in that conversation. At the top of the list, obviously Makar, right now, who's head to head with Quinn Hughes in terms of points accumulated, and really you got to give credit to Roman Josi, who's not far behind and has really pushed hard ever since I'd say about Christmas forward. These 3 guys have been absolutely dominating. If I had to give it to somebody, I'd probably give it to Quinn Hughes right now. I love Makar, but I think that what Quinn Hughes has done for Vancouver is a little bit more than what Makar has done for Colorado, mostly because I think Colorado has had the help of other players like McKinnon and Rantanen that have really stepped up. Oh, well, they haven't stepped up; they've continued to do what they've always done, but they've done it to such an elite level that it almost overrides what Makar does sometimes. So I'd say Quinn Hughes. Marco?
Okay, so I'll approach this. So who do I think will win it, and who do I think should win it? Who do I think will win it? I think Hughes will win it, but I think Josi should win it because he was absolutely robbed with that idiot reporter. I can't remember which city he
Yeah,
was from, but he was the only one who didn't have Josi in his top 4 or something like that, and he ended up losing
top 3. Yeah.
top 3. So just bananas, right? Like I think didn't he score 100 points? Like first defenseman to score 100 points since like Brian Leach, I think it was, or whatever. So to me, Josi he's sometimes these awards, guys, it's kind of like a lifetime achievement award kind of thing element to it. These things are political too, right? A little bit when it comes. I think it's the reporters, like not the TV media or I think it's the written reporters that vote on that award, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect that I think Josi should win it. I think he'll be right there. But if I had to guess, it'll probably be Hughes.
All right. Who won the
Coach.
Bill Mastodon?
Ooh.
Masterton. Yeah, there's some interesting candidates this year for sure. Like it's I think Jonathan Drouin is going to be right up there, guys. Be prepared for that, Habs fans. Like I think he's going to be right up there. He usually goes to the guy who did Sean Couturier get nominated for Philly? Is he their nominee? Did Couturier is he the nominee for Philly?
I cannot remember if he was.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure all the nominees are, but I think if Couturier, like, because usually it's a couple.
I have the winner, but I can give you my
yeah?
winner. It's going to be Calgary Flame Killington.
Yeah, he's a good candidate too.
It's
like
possible.
Yeah, he's a good candidate too.
I mean, you can't minimize any of these stories because each one has gone through different adversities to get to where they're at. It's hard to quantify something like that, what a person goes through. But yeah, I mean, those are all valid picks.
Pittsburgh Crosby, by the way.
Masterton is
Crosby? But he always does well, though, Coach. I don't think he's ever had it really an off year.
So Crosby on the Bill Mastodon. You have Laurent Brossoit for the Winnipeg Jet is on the Bill Mastodon. Claude Giroux for the Ottawa Senator is on the Bill.
That's weird.
Mastodon.
Yeah.
About that. You have another player. Can't remember. He was hurt and he come back better. Montreal have Joel Armia, by the way. We'll see.
I don't know. Like it's. I think usually there's a bit of a bias for the player that comes back from a obstacle to come back, like Carey Price the year that he won it, for example. And usually that type of player gets it more than the player who had a huge bounce back season. There should actually be an award in the NHL. Like, well, and Coach, we should do this show during the summer, like different types of awards. Like, I think we all agree there should be a best defensive defenseman award, I think there should also be a player in the NBA. They have this award. It's the most improved player. I think that would be a great award to have.
Sixth man.
No, not six man. The most improved player. Like which player had the most improvement year over year?
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, and six man would be good too. Yeah, that would be a good award too for sure.
Yeah, the other thing we have to realize is a lot of these picks, they're made just based on the season that they have, right? Just to sort of answer, I think it was Larry's question there that came through. Unfortunately, they don't take the playoffs into consideration. I would wait till the end of that to sort of gauge how they perform. The problem is most of the players that are nominated are in the playoffs, but some may or may not be. So that's the difficulty with that.
Awesome. Montreal Canadiens explode for 9 goals. Slafkovsky hat-trick.
We want 10. Coach, I can't believe I thought for sure both your headlines were going to be about Slafkovsky, but I can't believe we are 1 hour and 20 minutes into the show and we're only now talking about the fact that Montreal scored 9 goals last night and that Slafkovsky had a hat trick. Pretty incredible game. Of course, we recognize that it was probably the most disjointed team I've seen Montreal play this year. It was not pretty to watch. I actually, sometimes I go and I watch podcasts of other teams after they play Montreal just to see to get a different perspective on what they think of their team playing Montreal. And so I did watch, I think it was like a podcast about the Flyers. I think it was like Locked On the Flyers or whatever. And guys, if you think it's some of our shows, sometimes we're depressed about how Montreal is playing. That was a pretty depressing podcast to watch. The fan base is not happy at all. But yeah, very exciting game last night. I think psychologically that's such a huge night for Slafkovsky. Again, I watch a lot of hockey media, every day as I'm working, just in the background, listening to stuff. And it's great to see some of the more mainstream Toronto-based and American-based, media outlets, really recognizing that this is really a breakthrough for Slafkovsky. So good for him getting a little bit of notoriety and recognition around the league for really what's been an outstanding breakout period. And you can't say it's a breakout season even for Slafkovsky, right? Because it's really the second half of the season where he's really broken out ever since they put him on the line with Suzuki, right? Yeah. And that what was interesting yesterday, guys, too, is on Hockey Night in Canada, I guess on Saturday, Kevin Bieksa told this story that Suzuki went to Martin Saint-Louis and suggested to him that, you know what, my line coach or whatever. And it's a great story, when Kevin Bieksa told it, but it doesn't sound like Martin Saint-Louis 100% confirmed that really happened. But ever since that did happen, ever since they did put him on the top line, we're just seeing a completely different player, right? And it's just, I think, has a lot to do with confidence, and just being able to go out and prove what you can do, and just getting around the league a couple times and really kind of having a stronger belief. Like we were just talking about, coaches being their biggest superpower is selling belief to their team, right? Well, same thing with a player, right? When you start believing, look at Joel Armia, look at Slafkovsky. Let's see what happens with Josh Anderson, right? Drives to the net last night, gets an ugly one. Let's see if that, first of all, the pressure coming off his shoulders from not scoring. Let's see if that kind of gets him going a little bit, and maybe positively reinforce that he needs to go to the net, carry the puck to the net a little bit more. Intertap, I know that your theory is that since he really hurt his ankle last year driving to the net, we're not really kind of seeing the same player. So maybe there's some truth to that. But overall, guys, last night, hard to hate on much of great performance by Gallagher last night. I guess we should just, obviously last night was all about Slafkovsky, but I think, we need to focus a little bit on. Yeah, we need to talk about Alex Newhook, guys, I think, a little bit, because first of all, he's been performing well, and I think, really kind of justifying the price that Kent Hughes paid for him this summer, first round pick and early second round pick for him. Some of us were a little skeptical, about that move a little bit, but he's shown here that he's really probably going to play a really nice role in Montreal's top 9 at the very least, and maybe even top 6. But to me, what's most impressive is, yes, Gallagher is playing well, and you have to give Gallagher credit for that. But there's no, like, they've tried Gallagher on every line with every center, maybe other than Suzuki, right? And I think you have to give Newhook a little bit of credit. Like, any players that they put with Newhook since he's been back from injury, whether it's Roy, whether it's Armia, whether it's Gallagher, all of them have played well. And even Gallagher was the last time I heard Gallagher be as complimentary about the center that he was playing with was when he was playing with Phil Deneau. Originally, when Phil Deneau started playing center, you had players like Pacioretty and Gallagher come out in the media and say, I really like playing with Phil. Like, he's, you guys might not think he's like a top line center in the NHL, but he's easy to play with, right? And so you kind of started hearing his teammates make comments about him in the media about how good it was playing with him. And now we're starting to see Gallagher have positive comments about Newhook developing as a center. He's saying that he controls the middle of the ice super well, and that he's able to kind of make plays on his backhand, and his forehand. So, a little props for Newhook. That would be a really, really nice development if he turns out to be a player, guys.
Yeah, and there's a lot to go around yesterday. A lot of positive things. I like the fact that at the end, St. Louis kind of cut down the time on the first line and allowed the players that were having success yesterday to continue to play while they were doing a great job. You got to give credit. Dvorak could have easily thrown in the towel and not come back this year, just saying I'm not 100%, but he feels a lot of breathing down his neck too, that people are there to take away his job, and he wants to come back and prove that he can still play, and he did that. Gallagher yesterday, also with, what did he have? 2 goals yesterday and an assist. He continues to take his redefined position and perform to the best of his ability. And as somebody in the chat always loved him, Sebastian, he's always agreed that Gallagher was the man, and I never ever questioned his heart. It's just been most about his speed and having lost an edge over a lot of the younger players that has put him in the position, and the injuries have put him in that position.
Yeah. Well, if there's anything that Newhook has, is speed, right? Like, he has speed to burn.
Oh yeah.
I just opened this to you guys. Imagine, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but if you have your third line, the performance of Newhook, Gallagher, and Armia next season, and imagine what the team would look like. And line number 2 with Kirby Dak. I don't have no name right now, but imagine they are better what we have right now with Newhook. And then you have the first line. I'm talking here, have a really good lineup right there. If that's the way, I feel like Montreal should go that direction. I don't know Joshua, but if you put Joshua Roy in the top 9, Marco in our top, you are only one player have to pick the 9th player I'm talking about. And I think that's the way I'm looking for.
So these are my lines. So and I put this, I think, in one of your videos, Coach. So here's what I would like to see next season. Okay. So top line as is right now. Second line, you've got Doc with Newhook and new guy, right? So you have a new guy on the second line. Third line, you've got so I have Newhook as a winger on that second line. Then you've got Dvorak with Roy and Armia on the third line. And then you've got what we know in the preseason was a really good line, guys. Evans, RHP, and Gallagher on your fourth line.
Yeah.
That's a lot of depth. That would give a lot of depth.
I think that would give you more Anderson, Gallagher, and Evans together.
if you can't move Anderson, then I would love to see, that's assuming they can move Anderson. If they can't, then like even if you end up with Anderson, Evans, and Gallagher on your fourth line, that's not bad.
The money is a problem, but I don't see don't calculate the money right now. If everything like that, the key is and that came back my couple of days ago, my video about Chandler Stephenson, or a player can match up that area. You don't spend yet your $7-8 million on your big UFA you can get the year after that. If you can get a player like $4-5 million on that, I think that would be a good asset for Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Sean Monahan.
I thought about Sean Monahan on my video. I put Monahan, I put Marchessault, and I put Stephenson. All the three players I was targeting for the Montreal Canadiens. So it would be interesting.
We've talked about this a couple times, but let's revisit this, Coach, before we move on real quick, right? Because I think we've had these conversations earlier, but based on how Sean Monahan has done in Winnipeg, would you sign Sean Monahan to a 2-year deal for $6.5 or $7 million?
No.
2 years? 2 years.
I don't go over $5 million for Sean Monahan. And any players right now, Marco, I will not go over $5 million. Second, I will not go any more at $5 million.
At this stage, also.
That money would be so important the next 2-3 years, 2 years, because you have a Cody to resign. You're going to have other Slafkovsky going to resign, and that you need that money. So the extra 5, 6, 7, I would be very cautious about that. I will keep that money, guys. The 2025 UFA, it is great, and NHL.
Yeah.
So
that's their intent.
I would only do it for 2 years because you do have Dvorak, you do have some contracts coming off at the end of next year. So I think I'd have to look at all the numbers, right? But I think even if you bring in a guy at 6.5, I think you're still okay to re-sign most of the guys you need to re-sign in the 25-26 season.
But you know what, Marco? Like, I agree with the 2 years. The money aspect, I kind of question, not because he's not worth it, but I mean, he's at a stage in his life where I don't think money is the main issue anymore. And that might sound a little bit silly because if you can get every single penny that you can, why not? But what I'm trying to say is he's accumulated enough money over the years that I think it's more about quality of life. And if he feels comfortable playing in Montreal, then he might come over for 5 or 5.5 at the most.
Not for 2 years, though.
That I would do it. For 2 years.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? So the only reason, the reason I'm saying 6.5 or 7 for 2 years is that he'll have offers for around 5.5 or 6 for 3 years. So if you want to get him for only 2 years, you're going to have to overpay, that way, right? So that's why the AAV is going to be a bit higher, but the term is going to be shorter. I think for Montreal, that's the thing you're the most concerned about. A, because of where you are in your build, and 2, because he's an older player and he has those injury issues, right? So if you want to get Monahan back, you're going to have to overpay a little bit just in terms of if you don't want to pay the term.
If you're Monahan, you're looking for 3-4 years contract.
Exactly. So the only way you can get him on 2 is you're going to have to overpay on those 2.
All right, just a couple of news around the Montreal Canadiens very quickly before we move on. Kaden Coley returned on the ice with a no-contact jersey. Albert Xhelaj is going to have a surgery with the same doctor did last year on the right shoulder. This is a left shoulder. Peter will Millet for Vel in Colorado. And then his brother, Florent Xhelaj, signed a 3-year contract entry level with the Montreal Canadiens, the 101 overall pick by the Montreal in 2023. 34 goals, 65 points, and 66 game or 64 points, 65 game for Xhelaj. His report to the Laval Rocket was on the ice with the Rocket. From Anthony Marcotte, expect possible Xhelaj play one game before the end of the season with the Laval Rocket. This is the news about the Montreal Canadiens. Anything else? I'm not sure if you have anything you want to add more.
Well,
No.
it's disappointing for Xhelaj, but at least it's not the same shoulder. With with the advance in medical technology, coach, like confidence level pretty high that a player will return pretty even good as new. When he comes back with the shoulder next year for Arbor.
The interesting
Florian,
thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say the interesting thing about Xhelaj is, was this something that happened in that last game, or was it something that he sort of played with a little bit and it just got worse as time went on? Because I mean, there's more accountability one way than there is the other, and by that, in terms of him playing with that injury, and the medical staff maybe, I don't know, knowing or not knowing about it would be an issue with me.
Yeah, some people have been talking about that. Like some people really are concerned, 2 shoulder surgeries, and with the style of play that Xhelaj plays, like, is that going to be a thing? I'm not. Like, from everything that I've read and hearing former NHL players that have had these shoulder surgeries in the past, I think you have the odd case like a Josh Norris, who's had just really terrible luck with his shoulders. So, there are cases out there that are concerning. But at this stage, like, I choose positivity. And feel that he'll be, he'll recover okay and be fine. For Florian, guys, like, I guess the only thing I would say there is they must love him. They must really love him. They were really not pressured at all to sign him to his ELC right away. And it's interesting to me that they prioritized him over some of the other players. Like, Oliver Kapanen, for example, right? Like, when is he going to sign his ELC? Like, he was drafted like a long time ago, right? So interesting. It says a lot about kind of what the management team feels for Florian. So it'd be great for him to get a game in Laval, but for fans, like, don't expect him to be a huge impact player for Laval this year, but certainly next year he'll probably be a big important piece of the team there.
Well, it's the growth that he's shown over the year. I mean, he leapfrogged through that, and they even tried him at center because he's originally a winger, and they tried him at center, and he's been producing just as much. So, what a great show, and I'm so happy for him that they signed him.
All right, let's move on for the next. We have a couple of subjects for the end of the show. Don't forget to click on the likes. We have a few people knock the door. RDP is in the house. Joe Manella is in the house. Kayla a little bit earlier was in the house. I missed one. I apologize for the one pop-up. And next contract for Slafkovsky, guys. I would like to hear from you. Let me know what you think it would be.
It's a tough one. Will they try to secure him for 8 years like they did with Caulfield and Suzuki, or will they give him a bridge? I think that's the first question we need to ask. I would think that they'll try to get him for the full 8 years. It just makes sense based on what the development we've seen in his play, and still the ceiling that's there for him in the future. What would you sign him for? At this stage, I would not sign him higher than Caulfield or Suzuki. So I'd say somewhere maybe in the neighborhood of 7.5, around there.
Yeah, like there's some things I don't know what his who his management team is. So I haven't really started exploring that, but there's a couple things that I would take into consideration, guys. Like when you're committing to somebody long term, what you really want to understand is that person going to really commit themselves to being a professional hockey player, right? Are they going to continue to train and, kind of like treat their body the right way? Are they a serious human being that you really want to kind of invest in the long term? So everything that we've learned and seen about Uri Slafkovsky so far is that 100% he is a guy that, and again, in that interview with Saravelli, Kent Hughes has told this story many times. The reason they drafted Slafkovsky is because they strongly believe that he's going to be somebody that it wants to be a difference maker on their team. They keep referring to that interview that they did at the combine with him, where they asked him the question, like, what excites you most about playing hockey? And his answer was something like, I want to be on the ice, either winning by a goal or losing at a goal, at the end of the game, right? He wants to be a difference maker. So to me, if I'm investing in someone in life, whether it's for a partner or at work, like if I'm hiring someone or whatever, is this person somebody that I want to hitch my wagon to long term? No, I have no doubt in my mind from what we're seeing that the Habs management team believes in Slafkovsky and they want to secure him long term. What we don't know, or I haven't looked at yet, is what is his management team like? Which agency does he belong to? How do they kind of counsel their clients and things like that? I haven't had a chance to really look at that yet. But where I hope that they land, I agree with Endertap. Like I think it would be nice to have him right around the same number that Caulfield and Suzuki are getting. But guys, like, don't be surprised if he pops off next year and scores 30 goals and gets like 70 points. Let me remind everyone, right? The key thing to look at when it's the salary cap, like we all think, of the Boston Bruins, right? Like, okay, Bergeron was the one making the biggest number and you have to come underneath Bergeron. That's not always going to happen. Ideally, that's how you would like to build your team. But the key thing that you have to look at, because remember, the salary cap is going to go up. So what I would expect, and this is going to be boring, it's kind of technical, and I'm not sure everybody will understand or get this, but I don't care, is the percentage of the cap, right? So if I don't know offhand what the percentage of the cap that Suzuki takes, let's say it's 13% of the cap is how much Suzuki makes. As long as Slafkovsky is earning the same percentage of the cap as Suzuki or a bit less, then I think we're fine. That might result in his number being higher than Suzuki because the salary cap is going to go up. But the percentage of the cap that we're paying him will be the equivalent of what they paid Suzuki when they signed him. So that's kind of where I think it will end up is the percentage of the cap will be very similar, maybe slightly under what Suzuki got.
Right now is
Coach,
at 9.4.
it's
Marco.
I just 9.4. Yeah, both him and Caulfield.
So if you can get him around 9% of the cap, I think you're doing good there.
It's a great explanation about that. People, gave 3 years contract, 4 years contract. They gave to Kirby Doc. They gave Alex Newhook at 22 years old. I think for me, Sakeski came with. We still have 1 more year, by the way. So, want to be sure people understand he's not going to sign right away this summer. He could have an offer contract, but I feel like for Montreal Canadiens, he's going to be 21 years old when he's going to have his contract. Montreal are looking more to get a long term with the young players at 8 years contract, and they believe that will be paid off at long term. So,
yeah.
If they target the salary cap to be increasing to $6 million, example, the $7 million the next 2 years, the 9% of that one will be about $8.5 to $9 million for Sakeski. The key behind that, Marco, it will be all depends what it will be. It look like a season next year. When I said that, it's like a 30 goal season for him, a 70-point season for him. He continues to progressing and developing. That will and maybe give a little bit leverage to have a little bit higher money overall. But
I agree.
9.5. It's a salary cap on the percentage about that. So
Yeah.
that would be my
if he gets 70 points, but let's say there's let's say an incremental improvement over this year. Let's say he gets, I think I was saying, like, I think we all agree he's going to be around maybe 20 to 25 goals, maybe 35 assists. So let's say he's like 60 points, 65 points.
Yeah.
Then I think, he's positioning himself for that percentage. But you're right, coach. If he pops off and gets like 70, 80 points, then look out. That number is gonna be higher for sure.
Great point about that. So I'm flying to have a couple of other conversations. Patrick said that Zuski and Caulfield are 15 and signed for 8 million out of the entry level. No one will contract. No one requests more. It will request more about that for Mr. Slafkovsky. Flip side.
And on his production.
I want to go to opposite side for about 2-3 minutes. Do you feel like Cole Caulfield is paid too much? There was a conversation on the Simon Boisvert with Matthias Brunet today on the social media. Are you agree or disagree?
I disagree.
I think, I disagree too. Like, if you look at it just this season, then maybe, right? But again, with these long-term contracts, you have to look at the overall picture, right? Like, this contract, if Caulfield projects to be, let's be conservative and say he's a 30-goal scorer, 70-point player, when the salary cap goes up, 7.8 million is going to be maybe not a bargain, but close to being a bargain. Like, it's going to be a very, very good number for a player that produces to that level. Now, again, like, I understand that Saint Louis has put a lot of emphasis on Caulfield to develop his overall game this year, right? So sometimes players, like, if you look at William Nylander as an example, right? Like, okay, like he's going to be a 100-point player this year and everything else, but can you say, like, he's had good playoffs and everything, but is he a 200-foot player? Like, so guys, sometimes, production is not the only thing that I would base kind of the value of a contract. Like, it's very easy just to look at points, how much they're making, and do that math. But again, Caulfield, in order for him to justify that, he needs to produce. There's no question about that. He needs to score goals, but he needs to be a good hockey player. That, especially if they want this first line to continue to be a top line in the NHL, they have to be able to play him against top players on the other side. And I think we're seeing him committing himself to that this year. So I don't think it's too much. Maybe this year, you can make that argument, but in the long run, I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Anything else?
Yeah, I would agree. No, I agree with that. I think it's his success is measured by a number of things. It's not just the number of goals. You could say, well, that's what he was drafted for, to score, because that's what he's done his whole life. But I think since he's become a more complete player this year, I think, like, he's very much responsible, as Caulfield is, or Suzuki is, for the success of Slafkovsky, and vice versa. I think the three of them really complement each other very, very well. But for the longest time, you could see that Caulfield was giving up some of his shots for looking for a good pass to give to Slafkovsky from different angles, and just to get him going. And I think that's those are the things that we don't measure when we see how good a player has become. And I have no worries that this guy's going to be able to score. But this year, maybe that wasn't his focus. That's what we have to keep in mind. Not that he doesn't want to score, but maybe he was given certain objectives to try to establish and reach for himself, certain goals. And I think he's done that. And next year, you move on, and I think you're going to see a guy that can go back to at least 40 goals.
Well said. Let's move on. I will scoot on Madison, guys. I may be back with him.
Of course.
I will move up with Fleur Jakai after that. Do we have time for that? Would you like to talk about the NHL draft? Montreal Canadiens?
I want.
I think
I
I
want to
think the
talk.
fan I think our chat is probably most excited to talk about that than talk
Okay.
about Kovacevic. But I'm just guessing.
Pick number 6 for Montreal Canadiens and pick number 25, guys, for the Winnipeg Jet. This is how. So what I did, guys, for each one of you, I want to go to see the players Montreal Canadiens could maybe select. And I want to share it with you. I would like to hear some comment. And then I have a video of Xhelaj for about 2 minutes about that. But the situation with Montreal Canadiens at this moment, it could be Langstrom, Hazelman, Xhelaj, Catton, or a defenseman. And the reason I did not put one specific defenseman, because we talk about Parek, Lichenov, Zaliev, Dickinson, and Yakinchuk. I don't know if I forgot one, but that's the reason I put only defensemen. After that,
Yeah.
the pick number 25, we're going to talk after that. So let's move on with the top of the pick number 5 or 6 or 7 for Montreal Canadiens. What you feel and what the people chat and the chat are looking for that kind of players that you think of Montreal Canadiens.
You go first, Enter.
Yeah, I still believe that within the top 10, coach, you're going to see minimum 4 defensemen and probably taken quite high. So I think we'll be fortunate enough to have a very good forward land on our lap. I mean, for me, I would absolutely love to have Lindstrom. I would put Iginla second, Yzerman third, and Catan fourth, which, if you look at their heights, it also corresponds from tallest to lowest, but that has nothing to do with my decision. It's more about how they produced this year, and the fact that Iginla's value comes, with what he's doing also in the playoffs. I mean, he had a great year. I think he had around just over 80 points this year with Kelowna. Played great, and he's got everything in his game that you want. He's got that truculence about him. He's got the ability to get into the dirty areas. He's not afraid. He seems to be a clutch scorer as well. Like when you need that key goal, he's there. So I mean, if Lindstrom is gone, I would absolutely love having Iginla.
Yeah, like guys, it's really going to depend, where they finish, who's available, right? But they're going to, there's information that they're going to learn that isn't going to be publicly available to us, right? Really, as we know with Yzerman, really the question with him that some people have, there's no question that he is by far the best shooter. I won't say goal scorer, even though right now at the level, that he's playing, yes, he's, a really successful goal scorer. Yzerman for sure is the best shooter in the draft, 100%. Iginla does have a nice shot as well, for sure, but as we've talked about with Yzerman, like it's more kind of his ability to create with teammates. Will the kind of scoring chances that he currently gets, will they translate as much to the NHL game as they do where he's playing now? But Yzerman is also one of the younger, but I think Iginla is on the younger side as well too, right? So
Yeah,
I think it's really going to come down to the type of intelligence that they have on Yzerman, guys. Like if they, it's clear that the ceiling for Yzerman is higher than it is for Iginla, right? So what we can try to look in the past and see how Montreal has drafted, and it looks like they have a mix, right? Like they kind of took a little bit of a chance on Slafkovsky, a little bit because he's a little bit more of a project than maybe somebody like than Cooley, but they felt that the upside was worth it. But then with Reinbacher, they went with the more safe pick, the more conservative pick, in my opinion. So what are they going to do this time? Because to me, Iginla is the safer pick. You know exactly what you're going to get. The work ethic is going to be there, and all that. So I think for me, it really depends. Like, there's so many variables that go into this. For me, I don't think you can go. I don't think Lindstrom is going to be there for them. I think he's probably going to be in the top three, unless we win the lottery, maybe for second place. Like, if we were to, obviously if we win the lottery overall, then there's no question that Montreal will take Celebrini, right? But if they were to win, say, the second lottery spot, I would debate as to whether Montreal would take Lindstrom over Demidov. I don't know. It would be interesting. But I think Lindstrom is probably going to go in the top three. So really, if you're looking at a forward, I think it's going to be between Yzerman and Ginla. I heard that they like Catton, but I have my doubts about him too. Like, for a smaller guy, he's not really that fast of a skater. He's a very shifty skater, but I like my smaller guys. Like, Braden Point is like an elite skater, right? He's fast. He can really kind of he has explosive speeds to separate himself from checkers. Catton is a deceptive skater. He has great edges. It's kind of like similar to Hudson. He's a really skilled skater, but he doesn't have like explosive speed, and that's a little bit of a concern if you're a smaller guy. So for me, I like Yzerman and Iginla, but we'll have to see. Like, I think my top choice would be Lidstrom if he's available, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately.
Great point about that. Will be interesting what's happening there. I feel like I will be disagree. Only time we should disagree, Marco, is Lindstrom. I think he's going to be more at 5, 6, 7.
I don't know about that.
Because
it's
the
about the
defensemen
defense.
are so good this year.
Yeah.
And I feel like those defensemen are more rare compared to a player like Lindstrom. I feel like that would be the reason about this. The key behind that, Marco, it's only see what Dimitrov is going to be out. If Dimitrov is on the top 5, Lindstrom will be completely out of the top 5 for sure. My opinion about that.
I think a team like San Jose or even Anaheim or even Chicago for that matter, but if they get the number 1 pick, obviously they'll go with Celebrini. But they're the kind of teams that are willing to take the risk and wait more than 3 years to get Demidov. They'll take the gamble like Philadelphia did with Michkov this year. So, and I agree. I think you're going to see, like I said earlier, you're going to see about 3 or 4 defensemen that are going to probably be in the top 6. So that's why I do believe that some of these forwards will drop a little bit, not because they're not deserving of a higher spot, but because of the fact that teams are going to value right-handed defensemen, and there seems to be more right-handed defensemen available that are of a high quality.
Yep, I'm sorry about that. Number 25, and then Montreal could be 24 or 23. Toronto and Edmonton, I believe, all behind Winnipeg, but that would be the point. I look around different location, guys. They are the name get out. Boisvert, Basha, Michael Edge, Letourneau, and Seneke. Michael Edge a little bit before that, but I believe Boisvert, Basha, Letourneau, and Seneke are going to be on the players going to be around the Montreal Canadiens, Winnipeg. I don't know if you know some of them. So I was really difficult for me to make all the video for that. I'm prepared to set up my draft, but there are a little bit information about each one of them. Michael Edge is a center player with the USHL. He have a great game, a great year this year, 73 points, 52 game. He was prospected to be a top 10 2 years ago before he got an injury, and now he's just recovering and a full year. About that. So I don't know if you want to talk about specific players. I'm going to run the prototype, the profile of the player one by one. So I don't know. Marco and Horta want to talk first, and then I can add more information about each players.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, Coach, and anything we have to offer at this stage would be strictly based on a statistical analysis and what they've done, where they've at. And I think we hit upon it a few times. I think a lot of different factors will come in. It's not just going to be what their production's all about. It's going to be do they fit into our system, the kind of a culture that we tried to create? Do they sort of help address some holes that we have? Those kind of things. So it's hard to project because I think they're all decent in their own way, in their own manner, but I think you have to dig deep here, and that's where everything about the character has to sort of establish where they're going to land.
Yeah, to be honest, Coach, I hope they trade this pick. Because I hope that they're going to be leveraging this pick for something else. But in terms of what's going to be there for them in this range, I think the rankings are going to change so much. I think it's a bit early. I think, that when you're talking about say the top 20 or the top 50 in particular, I don't think that's going to change too much. Like you might have a late riser maybe crack the top 15, but I think for the most part, that's pretty set. But for this second half here, like anything above 15, I think it's too early, right? Because we have the U18s coming. And then I think we see a lot of kind of European-based players that are going to have a lot more exposure here now that a lot of the scouts are not going to be as focused on the CHL and on the NCAA. You're going to see them have the opportunity to go back and look at tapes from players that play overseas, and so I think it's a little bit early. If I'm Montreal, I'm with all the picks that they've had, guys, in the last couple of years. This is one where you swing for the fences. You're not going for a safe pick. Like, you're not going for an Owen Beck player. Like, okay, we know he's going to be an NHL player. You go for, I'm swinging for a guy who has like high ceiling, but maybe there's question marks. Maybe not about his character, but like, let's not forget Pasternak was drafted like 24th or 25th overall because he had mono that year, right?
This is the
So
guy.
if I'm Montreal,
in our tap.
Yeah.
Marco, this is the guy. If you want to hit for the home run, this is the one.
Yeah.
6'7", 210, play Senators College, but his skating, Marco, is maybe the best skater in the history NHL at 6'7". Like, you take Thompson skate, Letourneau skate better at Thompson. But
yeah,
the only problem,
Where's he ranked now?
he play only Senators College. He's already have a commitment with the Boston College next year. But this is a guy at the beginning was at 58 to 65 and 58 to 75 on the prospect. Month after month, he's getting closer and closer. And now some put Project M around 25 to the end of the first round, the beginning of the second round. But
yeah,
the point I'm talking about him, Marco, is because you said if you hit on the home run, you try to hit that someone. This is the kind of player I'm thinking.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of candidates that fill the criteria, but like, it's a little bit too early for me. I've obviously been focusing more on, say, the top, like 10, 15 players, because that's where kind of most of my interest is. But I'll definitely start digging in deeper here at this level in the next coming weeks. But I think the lists are going to change so much, right? But I honestly, guys, like I said, I hope we trade this pick. I hope that this pick will be made available as part of a bigger move. But Conley is another guy, I think, that you were just mentioning too. Like, he's somebody that might fall, and he's maybe kind of like a guy that would be somebody with a high ceiling that maybe some people have kind of like a question mark about. You hope that maybe a guy like that will fall there, but hard to say.
Yeah. Again, we're going to talk about more draft for weeks to weeks, but I think I am getting requests to make video return on that, so I'm starting to work a little bit on that. And it still have, Marco, you said right. You still have the playoff first of all, right, or where they are, and then you have the U18 at the end of April, beginning of May. There's another one, and you have to go all the way to the Memorial Cup, and we'll see. Today we don't talk about City Brunet, we don't talk about Dimitrov, don't talk about fun players, and that will be something Montreal are looking for. Montreal does not have the second overall pick on this year. They traded, and they have the one for Colorado Avalanche. Montreal have 2 other first round pick next year. The Colorado Flame will be the big one going to follow up next year. If not going to get the one for the Florida Panthers for upcoming season. So I think that's it'll be very interesting what happening about that for the Montreal Canadiens. Vinny 07 just knocked the door, so welcome back in the house. Is Trevor Connectly? Konechny. I don't know if you. I was asked Randy what was his first name. Konechny. It's Trevor. This is the player I'm looking for. If he's still there at 23, 24, this is Marco. You take at that one. I'll be shocked if he does. Now, here's the point with Konechny. He's a 5'11".
Is it Connolly?
Trevor Conley.
Yeah.
Conley, you mean, right?
Yeah. So
yeah,
he's the one I
he's
would
got high end skill. High end skill.
Yeah, he's right now on the top 15. Between some put him on between 15 to 25, but he's getting to get a little bit lower 15. We'll see what happens.
He won't fall that far.
Yeah, I see him on my list that I'm looking at. He's at 17, coach.
Okay.
And he's looking. He like 37th is where I'm seeing he has him. I'm just on Tankathon right now. I'm not sure which list that they use, but
what is the size?
Who?
For
Connolly?
Conley?
Conley is 6'1".
6'1"?
Yeah, but he's
6'1",
he's very light.
Yeah.
161 pounds.
Randy talk about coach, his smartest forward. I think he remind me of Caulfield, so I don't think it was the same player. So, about that,
Hey, coach, would it be fun? I don't know if you're able to share your screen while we're talking about the draft. Do we want to do a live mock draft, or do we want to do like a live simulation to see if Montreal would win the lottery?
I can go over there. Yeah, I can go there if you want to. If you give me about 2 minutes, if you don't mind.
Do it. Yeah, no problem.
We should do this every show. At the end of every show, we should end with a simulation to see.
And keep our own
stats. I can get. Is it that? What's the name?
Tankathon.
I don't know. Tankathon right there. NHL. Hold on. Give me about a few seconds, guys. About that.
Yep.
No problem.
I apologize. It's not going to be perfect on my screen, but
that's okay.
But
it's okay.
We'll
it's just
see
the drama.
Over there.
I'm throwing you a curveball. I'm the spot. There you go.
There we go.
I apologize if I put the bottom here. I don't know if I can.
That's good.
That
looks good. So, go to NHL. Go to mock draft.
So I get this like that.
Yeah.
Do the lottery. Press the SI.
Mock draft.
So you can see it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Let's do it.
We're going to go how many times? 3 times?
3 times. But coach, this whoa. What you have to do is before you hit sim, my tradition is you have to hit the reset button first, because I think there's something. So hit reset before you hit. That's just part of my routine that I do. Okay, now hit sim. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Oh, 7.
Ottawa.
Ooh, man.
Ottawa, guys. Ottawa number 1.
You're kidding me. You're
Jesus.
kidding me. Reset.
I don't like that at all. Here we go. Big money. Oh, my God.
Ottawa number 1.
Reset.
I call them the Mickey Mouse. That's what right now I'm getting janked about that.
Oh, come on, Barker. Big money. Wow, it's taking a long time this time.
Here we go. Yeah, sometimes it does. New Jersey.
New Jersey from 9-1, ladies and gentlemen. And Montreal are all at 7 right now on that one. So not lucky
Coach,
for the night, guys, on this one.
Go percentages.
Just hit the mock draft on the top just to see who would Montreal be getting at number 7, according to this. on the top where it says mock draft.
Hold on.
Next to NHL home. Up, yeah.
So who's Montreal getting?
Sam
If there's
Dickinson.
7.
Yeah.
I reset it. All right.
One last time.
Okay,
One
let's
last time.
There you go. Demidov.
Jeez. That would be pretty good. I
Wow,
will take
that
that.
would be an
Number 2 on
interesting
that one.
position. I think it's easier to pick if you have 5 or 6 than it is number 2.
It's addictive, eh? Oh,
Berkeley Catton
yeah,
on that one.
Yeah.
And the last one.
It's
you
addictive.
See, Linkstrom number 4 on that one. So they put. We get Zane.
Zane Parekh. Wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel him?
who's
Do
that?
you like him?
Yeah.
What's not
I mean, he's up 96 points is quite attractive,
What's
right? He's a right defenseman, which is an area that we could always use. And you can leverage some of your other players that you have to address the forwards. So, yeah, I agree. What's there not to like?
He's a pretty amazing player, but can you just imagine the fan base? I know like some people are aware that it might happen, but can you just imagine the reaction if they draft another defenseman? People are going to lose their minds. You just know it's going to happen.
I like
Until
people
they make some kind of trade.
Compare about that one there. That's pretty cool. I think we did pretty good about this
Yeah.
one. Yeah. I'm going to remove this one to be sure it's appear this. A bit more dark on my screen. All right. On that one, guys, I don't know, but we did pretty good overall. I think we did cover everything. We'll be back tomorrow night. Montreal Canadiens all right now at Uniondale to play the New York Calendar. It's a big game. We have a lot of big game. I think Pittsburgh play Detroit tomorrow.
Really big
believe
game.
so.
Smart.
So we'll be interesting to see that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Pittsburgh has Detroit. Yeah.
There we go. So we have a great night overall, and we thanks everybody. But first of all, the co-host Marco, and of course, in our tap, le moderator Luciano was in the house tonight. I don't know if you saw Ron at the beginning, but anyhow, we want to thank everybody. Click on the like, the super chat of Michael De Villano. And of course, all the people stay with us until to the end. You guys make the show better and better because of each one of you. But we have to remind everybody because that's who they are. Ladies and gentlemen, you are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. Here we go. That's what they are. The co-host of the show, Marco Larabi. Again, thanks so much. Enough. Thank you so much. Until the next time, be well, be healthy. Find a way not only to donate today, but find a way to donate the first half of what? Marco?
Ton année de 2024, les amis. 2024.
Et voilà. 2024. Have an amazing, great night, everybody. I look forward to see you next time. The weekly recap. We'll be back at Sunday. Montreal doesn't play Sunday. So thanks again, everybody. Look forward to see you next time. Until the next time, the Hockey Nation Show, the Ab Nation Podcast, want to tell you one more thing. We love you, people. Have an amazing, great night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Good night,
guys.
gentlemen.
Good night.
Thanks.
Booyah!